What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dave Gold Evolve podcast. I am delighted to have my friend and self love coach out of Arizona, Dante Hitt. Thank you so much, Dante, for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's an honor.
It's an honor to meet you and be connected with you and to help you out in your journey, and just to, you know, feel your energy from across the world. I feel connected with someone who is deeply aligned with his purpose of helping others, especially in the field of self-love. And so it's just been so cool to, start this journey together. And I wanted to introduce you more thoroughly to my community and also to the world so that they can better understand who you are and what you do. So, how about we started off with a little bit of a backstory on where you grew up and what got you into the world of personal development and self love?
Awesome. And I'm glad to connect with everybody in your group. I look forward to, after this conversation that we have, getting to know some of the guys who reach out once I give my handles and stuff, and adding some more value and having some more meaningful conversations. So I grew up here in Arizona, and my younger years were spent in a lot of like abuse. So witnessing a lot of abuse, domestic violence, drug addiction, seeing family members kind of come in and out of prison. There's a lot of neglect. So not really receiving like the love, respect, care from parents, family members. There was receiving some physical and verbal abuse, emotional abuse, being told like things like you're a piece of shit, you're a loser, you're a deadbeat by the people that I loved and cared about the most. Developing patterns of codependency. So I can't feel good in my body unless the other person feels good. So that led to a lot of people pleasing tendencies. And that was about the first 14, 15 years of my life. And then my dad kind of got me into the whole pickup scene. And this was kind of right around ish when VH1, the pickup artist, came out. So he watched a lot of that and read the game and went out and was a dating coach for a bit, taught some guys, got a bunch of results himself, results in terms of connecting and meeting beautiful women. And he would kind of teach me stuff as I was growing up. But because there was this void in my heart, my soul, as I kind of learned this stuff, it came from this place of how can I manipulate people of the opposite sex to give me good reactions, to kind of numb the lack of self-love that I have, the lack of self-compassion, the self-attacking thoughts and negative background track. And this kind of led me to practicing, going out. I worked for a dating coach named Sasha Daygame for about 2.5 years. I volunteered for some companies like RSD and was just in that sphere for a while. But anybody that I slept with or met or connected with, it always came from this place of I need them. I need to manipulate them to try to have sex with them, to try to distract myself and numb myself from what I'm actually going through, what's actually happening beneath the surface. And then if I did get into a relationship with them, it led to like massive jealousy, massive attachment. When the breakup inevitably came, I was devastated. Earlier in life, I would cut myself to kind of cope with that. I would drink, smoke weed, chain smoke. Whenever something would happen with the opposite sex, that would usually lead to me sliding backwards heavily into like those kind of behaviors. And this all kind of arced up, right? The movie of my life kind of like was building up into this main climactic moment when I just kind of came face to face with this and sadness and heartbreak and abuse that I wasn't really coming to terms with, that I had been through and that I was kind of inflicting on myself on a daily basis. And I got really depressed. My car got repossessed. I just stopped going to work. I just lost literally the will to even get out of bed. I was heavily contemplating suicide. taking a gun and killing myself. And that's when I kind of realized, like, okay, either I'm going to do this and end my life, or I got to start reading. I got to start doing something to try to make a change. And that's kind of what led me to where I am now and what I'm doing.
Dude, that's a crazy story. I didn't know that your dad got you into the whole dating world and that he was a dating coach himself. My dad was like probably had no idea what was going on in the dating world, and still doesn't understand what I do partly, and I didn't feel like I had that kind of support or push to improve my social dynamics and my communication growing up. It was more just the push to get good grades and to get a job and to get married, and you know, very traditional path. Um, but I did feel a lot of frustration, like what you felt, by being sucked into the whole pickup and seduction side of the dating world, because the dating world can be very, very large. It can be, spiritual, it can be mainstream, it can also be red pill or black pill or blue pill, or all these, different little rabbit holes that you can go down and get sucked into. And what kind of changed it for me, and that's why I think we've connected so deeply, is meeting guys like Thomas and learning about purpose and self-love, and seeing that you could be with and attract just the most amazing women and have like much more healthy relationships, not only with them but also with yourself, if you would leave that old identity behind, um, and start to embrace a new way of being. Um, what I wanted to talk to you about, and we've got a number of different topics that we're going to cover in brief, because I know you go into depth in your group in the Backyard Buddha. I'm also on your TikTok. You put out a lot of valuable information, and you also have a mentorship. But I thought we would hit a number of different bullets. And the first one that I wanted to cover was, how do you follow your purpose and love yourself without falling into burnout?
Beautiful question. I love talking about this in a coaching capacity, but just also conversationally. It's very, very fascinating to me. When our nervous system is overstimulated, and I could go in depth more of why that happens and where that comes from and how that relates to our subconscious, but when it becomes overstimulated, our consciousness condenses. And when that happens, we go to operating on our most stringent limiting belief systems. When that happens, we're viewing life through a one-dimensional lens. We think that it has to be this way. We can only see one direct path. And ego, if you want to call it that, is pressuring us to go in that direction to achieve this outcome, or become this person, or develop this specific, attribute, or act in a certain way, because we believe that that's the only way to experience good emotion. So for me, I'm all about what I believe is that you're already like a 10, right? You're already perfect. You're already amazing. And the thing that we want to do is align with that. Or if we're not effortlessly, naturally aligning with that, then we're in a state of healing, and we need to embrace that. So you're already like really creative. You're already like incredibly intelligent, super fucking funny. The action that you want to take is like, you have the inspiration, you have the energy to easily, effortlessly make that happen. But when it starts being difficult, we start like, not knowing what to do and having to like use effort and figure things out. That's when we tend to overcommit to things and stretch ourselves thin, because our nervous system is overstimulated and our consciousness is condensed. We can only see this one path. So we just keep doubling down. What I help my clients and people in my group do is bring more awareness to that compulsive energy, that compulsiveness that says, I have to, that sense of urgency, which is a direct symptom of that overstimulated nervous system. You're someone who is very spiritual. You understand presence, you understand all that and the value of that. When we're in the present moment, when we're relaxed, when we're at ease, that's when we can most handle, crazy amounts of stress or outside, things coming in. That's where the clarity comes from. But when we're overstimulated, that's when we tend to stretch ourselves thin, and it's exhausting to be in that state.
Do you think that most people are overstimulated these days?
Absolutely. And, including myself a lot of the time. That's why I do the stuff I do, meditations in the morning. It's everyone's in this constant cycle of busyness, and then I call it the veil of resistance that we have towards our emotions. And the three parts of that are: number one, suppression. So when an emotion comes up, you just step it back down. Number two is distraction. Let me distract myself with another movie. Not that watching movies, hanging out with friends, playing video games is a bad thing, but it's the place it's coming from. Are you using it to distract yourself from what you're actually feeling? Or you feel inspired? Are you feeling inspired to watch that movie, to hang out with your friends? So distracting yourself with something. And number three is numbing. So using sex, drugs, alcohol to numb the pain, to desensitize yourself to those emotions. So all of us, to some degree or another, are feeding this veil of resistance by being in the state of busyness. Rarely do we give ourselves, space. It's always like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then this kind of builds this cloud, this haze that we can't really then connect with our emotions. We don't, not even aware that we're in the state of overstimulation, because it's so prevalent. And then it's a vicious cycle, because it feeds into itself. Because then you're like, oh, but there's only this one thing. I have to make it happen in this way. It has to look this way. You need to take more action to get there. But the more action that you try to take, the further away from your heart you actually move. And the more difficult and angsty and stressful and tense that becomes. But if we just invert that and start turning inward and going, what am I feeling right now? What do I need to hear right now? What is happening? And start giving ourselves that approval and attention and validation and compassion in order to calm the nervous system down. And a great way to do that is just by being honest. You're talking earlier about, before the podcast started, a little bit about that. If you're on the, let's say, inferior codependent side of the spectrum, or narcissistic, feeling superior to other people's side of the spectrum, whatever degree that is, it kind of takes a while until you have that breaking moment. We're constantly busy, and it takes a breaking moment. Not that it can't be done through inspiration. I believe that, and Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that a lot. It's like you can change through inspiration, or I think he said like desperation. So you can see something that just kind of like awakens that part of you to start being nicer to yourself, to start self-reflecting. Or it can just be through pain, right? You just compound the momentum. You generate that spiritual mass through pain to eventually kind of start to care about yourself. So some of us have to have a rock bottom moment. Like I shared mine, where I was like, okay, like I'm done fighting. I'm done resisting. Like what's here? Like, let me start to look at this. So yeah, I believe most people are very, very in a busy state. I think that tendency is very much alive, and something that needs to be constantly checked on and combated or balanced out with some self-awareness.
There's a lot of ways in which we could take that. But let's talk for a second about this codependent and narcissist scale. Okay. What is that scale exactly? And how does someone become aware of where they fall on the codependent narcissist scale?
Gotcha. It's just a way of thinking to kind of bring more awareness to the patterns and behaviors that you have, to then kind of help move you in the direction of embracing what you're feeling versus running away from it or distracting yourself. So a codependent is someone who needs other people around them to feel good in order for them to feel good. So this leads to a lot of people pleasing behavior. If I can, they call it fawning, like the fourth fight or flight response. You have fight, whatever's there. You have freeze, you have run away, words, subcommunication, to try to diffuse any tension that they're experiencing so that they're in a good state. And then you can feel good about yourself. And you can also do this in a coaching capacity. And that's where a lot of me coaching people came from initially. It's like, how do I fix your problems so you can feel good? And then now I can feel good about myself because this person's in a good state. So it leads to a lot of people pleasing behavior. The narcissistic side of things is having a lack of empathy for other people and how you're affecting them and feeling superior. Codependency is all about feeling inferior, feeling judged by other people. Narcissism is about feeling superior, judging other people, lacking empathy. And yeah.
Is there an end goal? Is there a place in which you want to get to? Or do you think that the ultimate overarching theme here is just the awareness and the understanding of, you know, your true self and becoming aligned with your true self and understanding um, what exactly it is that you're suppressing from within, and what are you trying to hide or to cover up or to emotionally detach yourself from? Because, you know, you made a video about how to deal with mean or narcissistic people, but if you're looking at someone else as mean or narcissistic, are you showing them empathy or compassion for where they're at in their journey?
Yeah. So to answer, it's kind of like a two-part question there. The first one, I don't think that there's an end point. You know,
Mhm.
I think it's just a constant, even when death arises, that is just that whatever the next thing is, it's I think it's a very dangerous mentality to have. One day it'll all be over. Like, this. You're just going to keep getting better. You're just going to keep refining your process. You're going to keep being able to explain things better, help people to a greater degree. So I don't think there's an end point. But the thing that I'm practicing and cultivating, and that's a big point I want to touch on real quick, is getting out of that whole like another thing to heal mentality, like this exhausting, never ending, like I got to clear this thing, I got to heal this, and going, no, I'm just cultivating, which is just a constant, winning feedback, positive feedback loop. Like I'm just cultivating. I'm cultivating more compassion for myself. I'm cultivating embracing this next emotion and this next emotion and this next emotion and giving myself what I need versus trying to seek that in the outside world through good reactions from women,
Mm.
you know, doing this call perfectly, right? And if it's not perfectly, then I have to bash myself like through some crazy amounts of fucking standards, practicing just loving whatever is coming up and embracing it. That's my primary focus. And that's what I help the people that I work with on, is going from a place of resistance to embracing.
Mm. It's interesting
It's,
you said that, because as you were speaking, I was thinking just that I've gone from recording these podcasts and then, if they went well, which 99% of the time they did, I would then publish it, to actually doing it live in front of my community and then publishing it thereafter. And I feel that there's an added amount of stress or pressure to be present, to listen at a high capacity, and then to answer with something that's going to provide value to the audience. And that can leave you feeling like, wait, did I say the right thing? did
mm,
i did i did I mention what I wanted to mention? Oh shit, I forgot that. Or like, you know what, I was full of shit just now. Like I didn't even, describe myself accurately at all. And I can't go back and change that. I can't go back and change what just happened. It's already in the past. So if I want to dwell in those words or those actions that came out that maybe they didn't align with my true self, I'm not going to be able to just go back to the future and start the podcast over. I've got to show myself love and compassion and be here right now in the moment and just continue to flow. And we were talking about it on the last one with Trey. He's a cool guy from Florida, about not really caring so much about what other people think, what other people feel about you. Um, and so, I posed this question to my audience, and the response that I got back was most people don't care what a stranger thinks of them, but they do care what their family thinks about them. They do care what the people closest to them think about them. And I'm wondering, how you feel about that. Do you care what other people think about you? And why do you think it is that people are so caught up on the way in which their family perceives them?
Mm, really powerful questions. Yeah, I think generally speaking, a lot of the time I care what people think about me, especially when I'm in a state of resistance, because I'm not
Mhm.
perfectly doing this. I'm teaching it and I'm practicing it, and I'm in the trenches like anybody that I'm speaking to right now and anybody listening. So there's a great deal of time that, and I'm still, unraveling those conditionings and patternings of people pleasing and healing. So yeah, I think a great deal of the time when I'm not in a state of embracing, then I become way too focused on the other person. That's usually like a good indicator of when that whole let me like start being super aware of how I'm coming off to people. It's coming from an over focus on their experience.
Mhm.
And even so far to the extent of like feeling exactly what they're feeling, and like their feelings, their emotions are, leaning on my emotions, and actually, you know, almost like enough weight, like collapsing my energy field, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm feeling what that person is feeling. I'm absorbing it so heavily that now I don't even have my own experience of Dante. All my intentions kind of go out the window. And this kind of goes back into like people pleasing. It's like, now I have to make sure that this person's going through good stuff, like having a good experience. When I'm around a super loving person, like that's not when I'm in my head. Like that person helps me rapidly sync up to that place. It's when I'm around people who I am aware of how much they still have to heal, or they are in a really, let's say bad mood, or they're angry, or something's bothering them. That's when it's just like so intense for me. So in that capacity, I think why we care so much is because there's too much emphasis on external, not enough emphasis on internal. When you start not fixing, right? Because that's like a really destructive paradigm, which is defining happiness as feeling good. So then you put feel good emotions on pedestal, and anything that's not a feel good emotion is now bad. It's the enemy. It gets a negative contextual label like anxiety or depression. It's all healing.
Mhm.
It's like removing that stigma, removing all of that negativity from it. So now it's just, no, let me embrace these things. This is the next moment in time, or the next moment of healing in my journey, in my process. And we can kind of go maybe on later if we feel inspired to, on like what healing is, and why that's healing, why that intense emotion that you're feeling isn't depression, why it's actually like at a deeper level, fucking profound healing that's taking place. But when you start embracing emotion, not even to make an outcome, not that to make an instant shift. Like, I embraced it. Why isn't it working? I embraced it. Where's the feel good emotion? I embraced it. Where's all the great ideas and energy and motivation? Where is it? Where is it? It's like we're still in that paradigm, that pendulum of like coveting a result, outcome orientated. But when we switch to just being process orientated, I'm just here to embrace it stops being about the other person and it starts being about you, which might sound a little selfish, but the more you give yourself compassion, the more effortless it becomes to give other people compassion, to actually genuinely listen to what they're saying. When we're resisting and fighting against what we're feeling, we're not present with other people because we're not even present with ourselves. So how can I listen to what you're
Mhm.
saying when I'm completely conflicted and having this inner conflict with myself? And back
Mhm.
to family members, I, I don't know, because I live with family. This is my aunt's place. She lets me stay here rent free while I'm building my business, and I'm moving out in April with my cousin. I love my family. And, for a while, there's a lot of seeking approval from my father and my mother, and that kind of died off. And now it's just like, you know what, it's almost, you recommended the Ram Dass podcast to me. And something in one of the episodes he was saying is you practice loving one person, in a romantic sense, to then gain the ability to love everybody equally, and not in a romantic sense, but like the equal amount of intensity, let's say, and just appreciation. So I kind of see family as like that. It's like your personal tribe to kind of practice being compassionate and loving and supportive. But I don't know. That's a little gray area for me.
That's an interesting perspective that you could look at your family as, you know, your immediate source of practice in the world, which it is. But then we get caught up based off of the way in which our family judges us. And sometimes we resort to extreme levels of either trust or displacement, where you go to the extreme. And I know I practice this, where it's like I need to keep a boundary between myself and this other person, because if I get too close, I feel like the weight of their words and their energy is too heavy, and I don't need that. But I thought it was interesting, when you said that you actually don't need to always remove people from your life. That's not the ultimate answer, creating boundaries. And it kind of went against you know, what I thought was the reality in my mind. But then I started to see that other people would do this, and maybe myself at times as well, where it's like you remove someone and you create this boundary, but in the end, you actually just hurt yourself and the other person even more than just talking it out with them, than just trying to understand where they were coming from, than just actually having, like, you know, higher level communication between two people. It's like man to man, man to woman, where you like look someone in the eye, you get them on a call, and you just express how you're feeling. And it's so easy these days. You could just like block, delete, erase, and that's it. Poof, that person's gone. But are they really gone? Because the way in which I experience it right now is that sometimes, either someone won't want me in their life anymore, I won't want someone else, but I feel like they're still there. I feel like I haven't removed them completely, and the way in which it ended didn't do the relationship justice, because it acted as a cop out rather than actually an act of self love. So, can you elaborate more on what you meant by, you know, creating boundaries and removing people from your life not being the ultimate answer?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a question that I like to navigate my life by, which is what does my heart say / what does my heart say to do? So everything is not super black and white. Like, it's really dependent on where you're at in your healing journey and how much you're resisting and how much you're embracing. If you're embracing, then you're going to have a positive experience of your healing, or you're going to be more likely to just slip into alignment. And that's when you're at your best in terms of what you're able to express. When you're in a state of healing, you're just getting ready to ascend to the next level, so that when you do go into alignment, it's at an even more potent degree. So depending on what that looks like for whoever's listening and ourselves, you and I, sometimes creating a boundary is the right move. Sometimes you don't have all of the tools and assets to be able to cope with that level of toxicity, especially if, let's say, you're getting beaten or viciously verbally abused and you don't have enough compassion built yet, so that doesn't resonate. You know, your nervous system is still overstimulated, so you're operating on your limiting beliefs. Maybe one of those limiting beliefs, just, it sounds familiar. That's what's programmed in your subconscious. It's, I am not good enough. And then all that negative stimulus you're just getting on a daily basis, let's say in the terms of an abusive relationship with this person, it's getting, all that emotion is getting recorded in the cells of your body's cellular memory. And you're just building up more and more and more of that toxicity, if you will. So for someone like that, it's like, yeah, get out of that situation, like create a boundary. Otherwise it's just getting worse and worse and worse. But at a certain level, when you have a certain level of self-compassion built up, now it's time to go on the offensive, so to speak. By when someone does treat you, call you like say, you're stupid, I don't like that. You're going, wow, thank you for being so honest. I appreciate you sharing with me. I feel like a lot of people will just keep that to themselves, but look how strong you are in your ability to share that and express yourself. That's amazing. And come from a genuine place, not like a tit for tat, being sarcastic, trying to poke the other person, get a reaction, to mirror
like
what they're feeling.
like a passive aggressive, but rather than just like responding directly to actually what they did, in which you could, I saw you were talking about it, like compliment. Okay. And I was talking about this, how the other day, how I had a connection with a guy, but he wasn't completely honest with me. And so there was a complete breakdown in the communication, because I thought he meant one thing and he meant something entirely else. And so even if you feel like you might hurt the other person, it still could end up much better if you just ask your heart, like, what should I really tell this person in this moment? And then you just say it from that loving place, rather than hold it in, or rather than feel hurt. But a lot of the time, see, we get these emotional triggers, and it's so common these days. Like, someone says something that you don't like, and you just get triggered. And part of building a strong personal brand, right, is being a little bit polarizing and triggering people, so that it sparks their emotion and it drives a conversation. But I think what you have to understand is, why are you getting triggered? Why do you need to get triggered at some Facebook post or Instagram story or TikTok video, or even a news article that you read on CNN? Why is that triggering you? We had a call last week, and there was a lot of talk about, you know, guys getting triggered by um, women who think that men are toxic. And the underlying theme there was, why are you putting so much attention on it? What inside of you is hurting that's causing the trigger? So maybe we can break this down and help people to understand, what exactly is that cause of the trigger, and how can you alleviate the pain that you're going through when you get triggered and start to show it love.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. This is I think what's about to be shared is going to help a lot of people. So in response to that, I want to share a question. What if, pose a question to everybody listening in the Facebook group and later to the replay. What if you're not doing anything wrong? What if there's nothing wrong when you experience, I don't say negative emotion anymore, but when you experience anything, what if nothing needs to be fixed or changed or done or evaluated? What if it's just a powerful and beautiful moment of healing? So, because I know a lot of you only work with guys, that's correct, right?
Yeah, at the moment, I only work with men. My beautiful
Okay,
men in my
so
tribe, and you're one of
so
them.
yes, and I'm glad to be here, man. I love you. You're amazing. To all of you guys listening, there's kind of two layers of conditioning that that are really hitting us as guys. So the first layer of conditioning is just societal conditioning when it comes to regarding emotion, a certain emotion as being bad, putting that label on it, like that's a bad thing, like we shouldn't feel these emotions. There's an automatic resistance just because we're grown up by categorizing them. Feeling good is good, put that on a pedestal. Anything else is bad, and we should feel guilt, we should feel shame, we should be put in this state of overstimulation where we have to figure out, we have to solve. That's the first layer of conditioning. The second layer of conditioning is the core drive of the divine masculine, of masculine energy, is to supersede death through love, by embracing, by aligning with your purpose so much that it doesn't matter if death takes you, that you're still going to act beyond this obstacle, giving everything that you have and either dying or succeeding. Now, if we didn't have the proper amount of love and respect and care from our parents, from our environment, from our family growing up, and especially for guys, directly our relationship with our father, if we weren't given that loving, challenging energy, that's the divine masculine. That's especially the role of a dad. It's like to challenge you, but in a loving way, so that you're excited to take on challenges. You meet, it's like that smiling in the face, like Dance with Death, but you have a smile on your face. So like, yeah, but
You broke up a few times here. I wonder how this replay is going to be like. But I know that you're talking right now about, you know, being so devoted to your purpose and so in line with your North Star that you're willing to die for it. And the reason why you're feeling hurt is because maybe your father didn't show you that unconditional love when you were growing up. And I can kind of relate to that. So continue. I hope that we can get get it through and hear your whole message without it cutting out. So keep going.
absolutely, absolutely. So if we weren't taught to have that balance of challenge, embracing challenge, but with love, that was primarily our dad's job to give us that, then we start to alienate emotion, and we start developing this relationship of it's weak to feel certain emotion. You might even have heard things like, I definitely have, like, oh, you're a pussy if you're too sensitive, if you're feeling your emotion.
Don't be a
You're a
bitch.
faggot. Yep, don't be a bitch, you're a
Yeah.
faggot. All these things that we
Man
hear.
up. Man up.
Man up. Man up. And it's like, dude, I wasn't given the loving, challenging energy, so I have to do that for myself. I have to
Mm.
balance out, because if your dad's given the loving, challenging energy, right? Your mom's giving you divine feminine. You have a good
Mhm.
balance of divine feminine and divine masculine. You're going beyond all the challenges, but you also have the love to balance that out. So right now, if you're someone like me, you can relate to this and what we're talking about here, everybody listening, then maybe you got to start working on the divine feminine, which is all about include. What is this emotion that I'm feeling? Let me include it, not try to go beyond it and alien it and shut it down, which just, sections off a piece of myself that is continually hurting. And then I'm trying to do so much challenging to try to compensate for the lack of love. when it's like, it's not even about that. It's like, if you start giving yourself that compassion and love, then you kind of balance out. And now you're able to offer your full gifts to the world, but you're also not shut down by the challenges that you face. They're not crippling, they're not debilitating, because you have that support system within yourself, your own heart. So that being said, what a trigger is when a trigger happens, what's being triggered, right? Because you hear, oh, I'm triggered, and you jump to thinking, well, an emotion is triggered. But at a deeper level, what's being triggered is a deep emotional burn. So when you're younger, as let's say a baby, you're born and you have no context for everything. Your subconscious, which its role is to make patterns out of all information in order to save your body time and energy. So you're not wasting a bunch of energy. So everything that you're experiencing as a baby and growing up through adolescence and a little bit of your later teen years is recording all this information, and your subconscious makes patterns. But everything initially is foreign. So this is the way it kind of looks like in your subconscious. Something happens, you get overstimulated, and then it goes back down, and you kind of clear that out of your energy field, so to speak. But let's say you're in an environment where you're consistently, neglected, so not given support and care, or you're developing codependent behaviors, or you're abused verbally or physically. Well, that abuse, physical or verbal, overstimulates you, and then you kind of go back down and you're back to normal. But if that keeps happening, your subconscious makes a pattern and goes, oh, this is happening a bunch of times. What if we just make our default point? What if we just anchor in, this is what we are? And maybe that belief says, I'm not good enough. Now I don't have to jump back down and waste all that energy. I can just stay up here at not good enough. Your subconscious goes, that's a good decision. That's saving us energy. This is a good thing, especially in this environment. So when that happens, now every abuse, neglect, loss is another big core wound, like seeing someone die or seeing your parents split up. All of that negative energy and stimulus now starts, instead of being cycled out of your energy field, you start storing that in the cells of your body, becomes recorded in the cells of your body. So now when you get it into your later adult years and you start feeling this intense emotion, what you're actually feeling is profound healing. The moment you feel intense emotion is the moment it's being healed. You're literally burning that out of the cells of your body. All of the opposite attribute. So let's say you're pissed the fuck off. Awesome. You're actually burning that latent anger. It's not through the living room here. That might spark fear. That's a healthy physiological reaction to a lion. But what I'm talking about is when you're judging yourself, judging other people, or feeling judged, that aura of judgment, that is usually associated with that intense healing. So the moment you're feeling that is the moment you're healing that. And there's just all this conditioning and programming that says this is bad, this needs to be attacked. And that's literally what then happens. It's almost like having an autoimmune disease where we attack ourselves when really it's just a beautiful healing that's taking place. So a lot of this is just about unwiring these beliefs that we have and realizing that there's nothing more to be done. Like this is not about taking more action and figuring things out. This is about doing less. This is about being more compassionate with yourself. This is about being more gentle with yourself and cultivating that tool.
Yeah, I know you're very passionate that a lot of the times people will just add more, which will just cover layer upon layer upon layer of the hurt. But something that you said was the degree to which you're hurt is the degree to which you're reliant. And so the more hurt you feel, the more reliant you are on that pain, the more attached you are to it because you associate it as something that is who you are. It's a part of your identity. But the shift that a lot of times we need to make is a shift to actually showing appreciation for what happened. Because as you said, what if you looked at those difficult moments as healing, as loving opportunities, rather than misfortune, rather than failure or rejection? That was a part of your healing. It's just not talked about because we have this attachment in our society to goal orientation. How do you do more, accumulate more money, sleep with more women, have a bigger business, more, 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 more. And a lot of the time, then what you get away from is actually seeing, well, what do I already have? What do I already have? A lot of times, guys will come to me, including you, who have this beautiful personal brand and they didn't even realize it because they're chasing after something that's already there, already in their lap. And you see, the why and the how are very different, very different. Your why, your purpose, your identity does not have to correlate with the strategy and the how in which you're going to go about getting it. And as men, a lot of the time, we get way too attached to the how. How am I going to get the girl? How am I going to get the money? How am I going to heal my pain? Rather than just having this deep rooted core belief that I am where I am because I need to be exactly in this moment. And I'm looking ahead and I'm seeing where I'm going to go. And everything that comes into my life is just going to be a blessing. Everything that happens is going to be healing on the journey because it's all just karma. It's all just coming back to us from, our experiences growing up, maybe past life, and the way in which we're feeling inside is honestly what we're manifesting. I was telling you before about some of the successes that I've been having, and I'm going to be talking about this more next week in this group about manifesting abundance because I've realized that the times in which I'm suffering and I'm in pain, I don't want to admit it, but I'm manifesting that too when I'm in scarcity. And the times in which I'm just at awe of the beautiful people coming into my life, the places that I'm getting to go, the people that I'm getting to meet, the new reality in which I'm living, it's all because I was already there in my mind. I was already there. And
I'd
I
like to
just
touch
got
on
to
that.
this point. Yeah, I just got to this point where I started to love the fact that it could actually become my reality.
Mm, beautiful. You mentioned something that I think could help a lot of people listening. Seeing every opportunity, seeing every moment, right, as an opportunity to heal, and this whole dynamic of manifesting the same shit over and over and over again. It's not that we're manifesting all these things because we're not doing enough, because we're not good enough, because we're not taking enough action, because we don't have enough knowledge accumulated. We're attracting these experiences so they can act as catalysts to trigger what's still like oversaturated in the cells of our body, all that emotion, so that that can be burned out. And then through that catalyst, be it a person treating you a certain way, right, disrespecting you, or
Mhm.
something not going the right way, something failing, you not embarrassment, you not saying something perfectly, that all becomes a catalyst to spark and ignite that emotion and become an opportunity for you to go, I love the one who's feeling this right now. I'm allowing this to happen. I'm not trying to kick this out or change it or fix it or resist it. I'm totally embracing this moment. And by embracing it, we integrate it and we give it a loving send off. Thank you. Thank you for healing. Thank you for being here. Any emotion that we're feeling, it's recorded emotion in the cells of our body, meaning it's a past moment in time when you were younger and you didn't have the love you needed. You know, all of us, when we're in a state of alignment, we're feeling confident. We're cracking jokes. We're on our purpose. We're taking action. Creativity is flowing. That's our natural state. That's a state every man and woman is in when they've been given a healthy environment and love and support and care and respect. But to the degree to which we didn't have that, we have to learn to cultivate that for ourselves. So it's not about doing it more, doing it perfectly. It's about how much can I embrace this moment and offer it compassion. And in doing so, I burn it up, I heal it, I integrate it, and it makes it easier for me to get into a state of alignment. It's not about even putting that on a pedestal, putting that like flow state on a pedestal, because then we start to alienate the emotions again. We're back on that pendulum. It's about what's here right now. Who's the next one in line that needs to be loved? I'm feeling some anger. Awesome. This is a part of my, I call all of that emotional residue still in your cells. The accumulative emotional residue is your inner child. It's like, this is the next piece of you. It's like how much of a you know fragmentation of a split that needs to happen when the next part of ourself that's ready to be healed, we're like, no, I can't do that. And it, that's just practice. Just practice being gentle, practice rebuilding that relationship with yourself. And it takes a lot of courage. The tendency we have as guys, back to what we were talking about earlier, it's like, be stronger, right? Go beyond it. And it takes a lot of courage to go, actually, no, I'm gonna be present with this. I'm not gonna run away from this, and use that idea, that concept as something to kind of numb it and cover it up and hide it. The people who commit the most violent acts, the most abusive acts, are people who are not in touch with their inner child. Another word for that is their shadow. It's when we start neglecting that things start really going south. And you help coach me through a moment. I called you up on the phone, like, I don't even know, like a month ago or so. And I was in a really, really bad spot. And I was literally starting to go back to some of my old coping mechanisms and contemplating even more of the hardcore ones. And you're like, Dante, you didn't do anything wrong, man. This is just another moment for you to practice lovingness. And then you told me a little bit about you working with your coach, how sometimes things happen and he just kind of laughs. He's like, awesome. Another thing to love. And it really cemented into place on that phone call, man. And thank you again for that. Really cemented into place. Like, that's what it's about. I didn't do anything wrong. Why is my go-to response here that I didn't do enough, that I'm going to punish myself and blame myself? No, it's not about that. It's about, this is the next one in line that's ready to be healed. This is the next one in line that's ready.
Another video you made was, you can't change what you didn't know then. So unlock a new perspective, unlock a new paradigm. And I feel hurt and I feel pain from things that have happened to me. And the more that I carry that with me, the more it will hold me back from embracing a new perspective and a new paradigm. And I ask you, if you're listening to this right now, I don't know how many of you made it through all the cuts in the internet and, this spiral conversation that's been through many different topics of of spirituality and self-love and consciousness tonight, but what's one thing that you can just accept that you can't change it, but you can start to see it in a different light and to embrace a new perspective. And that was all that happened there was you didn't want to see that experience as a beautiful opportunity. And man, when someone shames me or talks bad about me or blocks me or does shit that on the surface of what we've labeled it in society could be looked at as bad, it's hard for most people, especially where they're at in their consciousness scale, to look at that as like a beautiful, loving thing. Like, oh my God, that's amazing. And so that's why like I was so blown away when Tom was just like, oh my God, you got shamed? That's awesome. And then like Ash did it too. He's like, dude, that shit happened to you. That's so cool. Like, just enjoy it. Just enjoy it because not everyone gets those opportunities. Think about that. Think about that. There are some people that everything is given to them and their life is all lovey-dovey and rosy, and then they get to this place where shit hits the fan, and then what happens? Like they commit suicide or they fall into deep depression, or their marriage falls apart, or you know their company gets ruined, and shit goes really bad for them because maybe they didn't have those experiences or they didn't look at them from different perspectives as actually beautiful opportunities to learn and to grow and to fall deeper into your love, fall deeper into your love, that love for yourself, that love for those other people who may be going through some kind of pain, and that love for the universe that in many ways is quite unpredictable at times. You don't know what's going to come to you and when it's going to come, but you can change your reality if you decide to take conscious action. Dante, let's end it there. How can they find you? What are you up to? Who are you looking to work with? Let's hear it all.
Beautiful. Thank you again, man, for inviting me onto your podcast and giving me opportunity to drop some things that hopefully help people make some mindset shifts and take some stuff away that they can apply to start embracing what arises in their life. You can
First of
find me
many.
at
First of many.
100%.
This is just the beginning of a journey for both of us, diving deeper into our purpose and changing lives. And if you guys feel like you resonate with this kind of work, well, listen up. Now it's going to be an opportunity for you to make some big, massive changes.
So I have a free Facebook group called the Backyard Buddha Tribe. That's where I put a lot of
Backyard
free
Buddha
value, free
Tribe. Oh yeah, the
videos.
Backyard Buddha Tribe.
There's about 200 people or so in there right now, maybe even 300. I can't remember. And that's a good place to, number one, get some free value if you're in a spot where you don't necessarily have finances to take it to a next level. And number two, just to kind of see what it's all about and kind of get a more of a taste for that. You can follow me on Instagram at the Backyard Buddha and TikTok at the Backyard Buddha. Those are two solid places. Yes, send me a golden heart emoji on Instagram. And
Dante's breaking up right now. I don't know if you can hear me, but the other thing that you can do, guys, is if you want to get to meet Dante and work with him, for a one-off free session, Dante offers a free gift call. So I highly recommend that you take him up on that offer and just get a taste of his energy, of the work that he does. And, if you feel like there's a connection there, maybe pursue it. Maybe it was meant to be. You know, ask your heart, is this someone that could theoretically change my life, especially if I invest my time and my money into this process? I just want to give a quick shout out to the Dave Gold Evolve Mastermind, where big things are going to be changing. Okay, we've got 9 calls in the next 9 weeks with guests like Dante, who's going to be on, and we're going to be diving really deep into embodiment, authenticity, spirituality, self-love, consciousness, you know, conscious dating, conscious branding, abundance mentality. So we're going to go really, really deep over the next 9 weeks, 9 or 10 weeks. And then we're going to take a break. So I'm going to be closing off the admittance, the entry into the mastermind. So now is a great opportunity for you to at least get on a call and learn more about what's going on and see if you'd like to join the mastermind. The mastermind is something that you get when you sign up to work with myself or one of my mentors in Dave Gold Evolve. And as you guys know, I run a course. It's called Evolve, where you get to evolve your brand, evolve your life. So if you'd like to learn more about that, drop me a DM and let's get to work. Thank you so much, Dante. We love you. We'll talk to you soon.